Before we continue with the rest of the video, we could use your help. Click that like button to help spread the word about watchJojo, and also be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss our future videos.
Mom left her girls with their sick dad. Then when she sees what they did to the backyard, whoa. Darius Stevens might call himself the clueless father, but when it came to this touching gesture, he knew exactly what he was doing. Having rewarded his wife with a richly deserved vacation, this super dad, with the help of his two daughters, set to work creating something amazing in their backyard. And to top it off, he did it all despite a serious risk to his own health. Stevens, or Dare as he refers to be known, lives in Los Angeles, California, with his wife Rose and their two daughters. In 2014, with his 40th birthday on the horizon, he was struggling to make it as a filmmaker and screenwriter. It had been, by Stevens' own admission, a pretty tough year. After all, a series of unfortunate events had seen him lose his job, all his money, and consequently his family's home. And given his debts of more than $20,000, he couldn't make the payments for his insurance policies, which were duly then canceled. But there was even worse news to come. Noticing a couple of strange patches on his skin, Stevens went to his doctor, who referred him for a biopsy. The results came back positive. He had skin cancer. On top of that, as Stevens now had no insurance, he'd need to stump up $15,000 if he wanted the affected skin removed. Overwhelmed by his run of extreme bad luck, Stevens couldn't bear to tell his wife about his illness. He also didn't go back to the doctor. After some time then, medical services sent a letter to him explaining that he needed treatment for his life or death situation. His wife found the letter though, and finally the truth was out. Still, although Stevens was relieved that his wife now knew about the cancer, he understandably became pretty depressed by his situation. So as 2015 and that landmark birthday approached, Stevens was ready to give up. I'd once promised my younger self that if I hadn't sold a script, a novel, or made a feature film by the time I was 40, I would throw in the towel. Stevens wrote on his blog, self-deprecatingly called Clueless Father. Fortunately, things soon began to look up. Indeed, he managed to find a job, moved his family from a friend's spare room into a new home, and perhaps more bizarrely became totally obsessed with Pinterest. His creative side was then about to be unleashed. I was going to hit 40 without selling a script, a novel, or making my first feature movie, he wrote, but damned if I was going to go into it depressed. I decided that I wanted to give my kids and my wife something special. Indeed, it was then that Stevens seemed to turn a corner with his depression and began to realize that his life was still worth fighting for. No matter how bad I felt about my life, I was living a life that someone else, somewhere in the world right now, wished they had, he wrote on his blog. While I stood there bitching about my minuscule problems, I was living someone else's dreams. With rejuvenated hope and plenty of Pinterest inspiration to lean on then, Stevens decided to make some pretty drastic garden improvements. In fact, he had grand plans for a new outdoor deck, a kid's playhouse, and a pergola, all set among newly landscaped grounds. This, though, was obviously going to take some work. Stevens first decided to realize his dream backyard in miniature, so he skillfully built a scale model of what promised to be an epic project. This was, however, just the start of the magic. I asked all my friends and family to give me wood for my birthday, Stevens recalled in his blog. I asked other friends for leftover lumber on their job sites. I looked through Craigslist, he added. I did whatever I needed to do to get my ducks in a row. Determined to make the whole thing a surprise for a supportive wife, Stevens sent her off on a 5-day trip to New York City. In fact, he disguised the trip as an early birthday present in a bid to keep her in the dark. He wrote, "In the 10 years that my wife and I have been together, she's probably told me 100 times that she wished that one day she could go to New York. She had also mentioned that she wished we had a place that was outside to exercise and watch the girls play at the same time." So Stevens quickly put his plan into action. By the time I got back from dropping her off at the airport, the lumber was waiting for me at the house, Stevens subsequently explained. I went crazy building things like a madman. Not only that, but he decided to capture the whole momentous project on camera too, making a time-lapse video of his progress. Fortunately, Stevens didn't have to take on this massive task alone. He had plenty of very committed and willing helpers, his two young daughters. Indeed, the time-lapse video shows the two girls eagerly getting stuck in. In a cute touch, one of them writes, "I love you, Daddy," on a new chalkboard. Perhaps it was the promise of a playhouse complete with trampoline, slide, and sandpit that helped spur the little helpers on. Still, the job would turn out to be more of a slog than Stevens had initially bargained for. "I didn't finish it by the time my wife got back," he remembered. "I had to send her away again to take another 4 days off to go to her sister's baby shower while the girls and I worked away." And despite all his meticulous planning and help from family and friends, Stevens ran out of cash before finishing the project. As a result, then he ended up building another deck on commission to bring in the final few dollars that he needed. He wrote, "I didn't have enough money for a lot of the backyard, so I had to take another job on some weekends to buy some more wood. Yes, no BS, I built a deck for someone else." He must have been exhausted. Yet, while he may have described the build, which he combined with looking after his children, as really stressful, Stevens wrote that he and his 2 daughters did have a blast. All that effort, stress, and juggling was, it transpired, totally worth it. Finally, after 10 days of hard labor, this super dad was done. It's incredible what Stevens was able to achieve on such a budget, around $5,000, and while coming to terms with a serious illness. His family must be proud. And if his wife's reaction is anything to go by, she loved it. Writing on his YouTube channel, Stevens explained, "When she walked through the back door, her jaw literally dropped. When I took her around and showed her everything, she was still stunned. And then she started crying. I think she really felt how much I love her and our daughters and was trying to express that through this simple creation. I felt very proud and that the hard work had been worth it." It seems then that all the hard work paid off, and it's made a big difference to Stevens' life too. Indeed, he wrote, "The kids love their new space, and I feel strangely satisfied. It felt good to build this. It sort of gave me a renewed verve for keeping going, pursuing my dreams and taking the struggle that comes with that in stride." At the end of the time-lapse film documenting the build, Stevens thanked all those involved. He reserved a special mention for Pinterest and, intriguingly, comedian and chat show host Ellen DeGeneres, which obviously warrants some explanation. It turns out that when Stevens was at his lowest point, he turned to the Ellen DeGeneres Show, a program he ended up watching most nights. In addition to the positivity of the presenter and her guests inspiring him, the dad said that it helped put his own problems into perspective. Later, as Stevens had posted his build video to YouTube in September 2015, the internet was suitably impressed. As of November 2016, it had been viewed more than 1.5 million times and has attracted more than 100 comments. Indeed, it seems that the so-called clueless father has won himself a whole new army of admirers. YouTube user Marie Oliva wrote, "What an incredible dad and hubby you are. That is truly inspiring. Amazing." Amy Venify agreed, writing, "It takes a lot of vision to pull that together and a lot of work. Congratulations." Oscar Rivera meanwhile joked, "Okay, how soon can you get to my house?" And there was more good news to come. Luckily, a friend of Stevens' mother was working for a dermatologist and put them in touch. The dermatologist agreed to take him on as a charity patient, allowing Stevens to get treatment while paying only what he could afford. And as of January 2016, he was clear of the cancer. "I want to thank all my wonderful friends and family who contributed to the project," Stevens concluded in a blog post, "and most of all my wife and my daughters, who give me more happiness than I could have ever asked for, every single day." Please don't forget to share this video with your friends below.